The night he told me to get out, he didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Mark stood in the middle of the living room like he owned the place, which, to be fair, he thought he did. Arms folded, chin slightly up, that controlled tone he liked to use when he was making a decision that wasn't open for discussion. "You've stayed here long enough," he said. "It's time." That was it. No build-up. No conversation. Just, done. I remember glancing at my mom. She was by the kitchen counter, pretending to wipe something that was already clean. She didn't look at me. That part stuck more than anything else. "Time for what?" I asked, even though I already knew. Mark didn't blink. "Time for you to move out." Yeah. That didn't sit right. Not the words, I'd heard versions of that before. But the way he said it. Final. Like I was a guest who'd overstayed his welcome. I just nodded. All right. No argument. No scene. That surprised him more than anything. Because Mark liked resistance. It gave him something to push against. But I didn't give him that. "Tonight would be best," he added. Of course it would. I looked at my mom again. Still nothing. So I turned, walked down the hallway, and started packing. Slow. Deliberate. Not dragging it out, just not rushing either. Because here's the thing about moments like that, they don't actually start in that moment. They start years earlier. When my mom married Mark, I was 17. Old enough to see what was happening. Young enough to convince myself it wouldn't change anything. At first, it didn't. Or at least, that's what I told myself. Mark was polite. Measured. The kind of guy who kept things professional, even in his own house. "How's school?" he'd ask. "Good. Good." And that would be it. No follow-up. No real interest. Just, checking a box. I figured, okay. Not everyone's warm. That's fine. But then his son, Tyler, started coming around more. That's when things shifted. Not dramatically. Not all at once. Just, enough. Tyler would walk in and Mark's whole tone would change. "Hey, champ." A small thing. But consistent. He'd laugh more. Stay in conversations longer. Actually listen. Meanwhile, I could be sitting right there and somehow still feel out of frame. At dinner, Mark would ask Tyler about his day in detail. "Practice go okay? Coach still riding you?" Tyler would talk. Mark would respond. They'd go back and forth. Then Mark would glance at me like he just remembered. "You good?" "Yeah, I'd say." "Good." And we'd move on. That became the pattern. I learned not to expect more. And here's the part people don't talk about: you adjust. You start making yourself smaller in conversations. Shorter answers. Less input. You nod. You smile. You stay out of the way. It's not dramatic. It's just gradual. Like lowering your own volume so you don't interrupt something that was never meant for you. My mom noticed. Of course she did. But noticing and doing something about it? Two different things. "Mark's just like that," she'd say. "He doesn't mean anything by it." Yeah. Maybe. But meaning doesn't change impact. "Daniel." Her voice pulled me back. I turned. She was standing in my doorway, arms crossed. Same posture she always used when she didn't want to get too involved. "You don't have to take everything tonight," she said. "You can come back later." I looked at her for a second. "Sure," I said. "I'll manage." She hesitated, like she wanted to say something else. Then she didn't. Just turned and walked away. And that told me everything. I zipped the bag and walked back into the living room. Mark was still standing there, exactly where I left him. Waiting. Of course. Got what you need? He asked. Enough. He nodded. Then, like he couldn't help himself, added, "This is for your own good." I almost smiled. People love that line. Makes everything sound cleaner. Like pushing someone out is some kind of favor. I didn't respond. Just grabbed my keys, opened the front door, and stepped outside. The air felt different. Cooler. Or maybe I just noticed it more. I walked to my car, tossed the bag in the back seat, and sat there for a minute. Hands on the wheel. Engine off. Looking at the house. Funny thing is, I wasn't angry. Not the loud kind. It was quieter than that. More like clarity. Okay, I said under my breath. So that's how it is. My phone buzzed. Ethan. Not Tyler, my actual younger brother. Different story, same house. You good? He texted. I stared at it for a second, then typed back. Yeah. Just left. 3 dots. Left? Yeah. Another pause. Call me. I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I started the car and drove. I ended up at Claire's place. She opened the door before I even knocked. She had that way of reading things without needing details. Took one look at me, then at the bag, and stepped aside. Come in. I walked past her, dropped the bag by the couch. And sat down. She handed me a glass of water without asking. So, she said, leaning against the kitchen counter. They finally did it. Yeah. How'd it go? Clean. She studied my face for a second. You're not mad. I am, I said. Just not surprised. She nodded slowly. Yeah. That tracks. Because she'd seen it too. The little things. The patterns. How long? She asked. Since I moved in. I shrugged. Or since I realized. Couple years. She let out a quiet breath. That's a long time to sit on something like that. I leaned back against the couch. Yeah, I said. But it teaches you things. Like what? I looked at her. Like when to speak, and when not to. She tilted her head slightly. And this? She asked. What is this? I thought about it for a second. Right now? I said. This is waiting. 3 years earlier, my mom had asked me to sign something. It was late. Mark wasn't home. She had papers spread out on the kitchen table, neatly stacked. I just need you to sign here, she said. It's for the house. I picked them up and started reading. Because that's what I do. I read things. And that's when I saw it. Ownership. Her name. My name. 50% each. Why me? I asked. She hesitated. Just a second. It's a protection thing, she said. Mark's getting into some investments. This keeps everything balanced. Balanced. Interesting word. You sure about this? I asked. Yeah, she said quickly. It's just temporary. I looked at the document again. There was nothing temporary about it. But I didn't say that. I just nodded, and signed. After that, I didn't bring it up again. Didn't remind her. Didn't correct Mark. Just let things play out. Handled small things quietly when they came up, insurance notices, property taxes, maintenance calls. Stuff no one paid attention to. Stuff that mattered. And over time, they forgot. Or maybe they never really understood to begin with. Either way, they got comfortable. And comfort makes people careless. A week after I left, my phone rang. Mark. That alone told me something had shifted. I let it ring once. Twice. Then answered. Yeah. We need to talk, he said. Of course we did. About what? A pause. The house. There it was. I leaned back against the couch. All right. Come by tomorrow, he said. 10. Okay. He hung up. Claire looked at me. That didn't sound casual. It's not, I said. She crossed her arms. You gonna tell me what's going on? I held her gaze for a second. Then said, they think they kicked me out of their house. And? I stood up, grabbed my keys. They're about to find out, it's not just theirs. The next morning, I didn't rush. No need. I got there a few minutes early anyway. Habit. The front door was unlocked. Also habit. I walked in. Same house. Same furniture. Same everything. But the energy? Different. Tighter. Mark was at the dining table. Papers spread out. Laptop open. My mom stood near the window. Neither of them looked relaxed. Sit, Mark said. I did. He slid a document toward me. We're refinancing, he said. Need your signature. I didn't touch it. Just looked at him. Why? He frowned slightly. Because your name's on it. Still. That word again. I picked up the document, skimmed it, then set it back down. I'm not signing this. Silence. My mom stepped forward. What do you mean? I said calmly, I'm not signing it. Mark leaned in. You don't have a choice. I looked at him. Really looked. Then I shook my head. Actually, I said, I do. The room went quiet. You lived here under my roof, he started. Our roof, I corrected. That landed. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just, accurate. I pulled up the original ownership document on my phone and turned the screen toward them. 50%, I said. My mom's face changed. Recognition. Mark stared at the screen, then back at me. For the first time since I'd known him, he didn't have a response ready. And that's when I knew. Everything had just shifted. We didn't argue. Didn't need to. Because this wasn't about emotion anymore. It was about structure. You should have talked to me before asking me to leave, I said. No anger. Just clarity. My mom looked down. Mark didn't say anything. Because he couldn't. Not without admitting something he wasn't ready to admit. I stood up. If you want to move forward with anything involving the house, I said, we do it properly. Together. Or not at all. No threats. No drama. Just, terms. I walked to the door. No one stopped me. No one tried. Outside, the air felt the same. But I didn't. I got in my car, started the engine, and sat there for a second. Then I pulled out my phone. Claire answered on the first ring. Well? I looked back at the house. They finally saw it. What? I smiled slightly. That I was never just living there. A pause. Then a quiet laugh. Took them long enough. Yeah, I said. I put the car in drive. And now, I added, they have to deal with me, properly. I pulled away from the curb, not looking back this time. Because for the first time, I didn't feel like I was leaving anything behind. I felt like I'd finally stepped into something that was mine. Quietly. Completely. And on my terms.